Welcome to Horror Movies and Beyond. I'm your host, Ivotres Littles. I'm joined by the director and actress of this intense psychological horror movie, The Plastic Man. Let's welcome Samuel Gonzalez Jr. and Gigi Gustin. Thank you for joining me to talk about your film. Man, this was so intense. It was so good. I sat there with no expectations, clear mind, clear everything, and it just blew me away. I was crying my out by the time it got
Aw.
to the end. I had to go lay down. I think I told Samuel, I had the text, I had to go lay down. I literally just got under
Oh,
the covers for a couple of minutes and just put just right under there because it hit close to home in a different way. Obviously, I never been to war, but just the emotions that this film carried of going through tragedy and just trying to understand and just try to live and don't have the necessary resources that you need and just being forgotten and just how you're treated. So we're going to get into this, but thank you both for coming on here. I mean, this
Thanks for
is
having us.
fantastic. um, so I think everybody should have an idea of the synopsis or what it's about. Do you want to, either one of you want to give it or you want me?
Go for it.
Okay. Vietnam veteran Jonathan Taylor struggles with guilt, paranoia, delusion, plans to take his own life. As he struggles to come to terms with his choice and reality, a chance encounter changes everything. It was inspired by a true story. I think it's more to that because, Samuel, from what I think I've read, you are a veteran, right?
I am. I am.
Yeah. So I feel like this story, and you are obviously the director and writer, and I feel like the experiences of what you see that Jonathan's going through, I think is something that you personally experienced from your time in the war. Because it felt so realistic, and I think that's parts that you felt. But what was the process? Obviously, it was inspired, but what was the process of putting yourself in there, and how far did you want to go, and the limitations that you
You
wanted
know,
to make cover?
you know, I served 2 tours in Iraq, and those scars came home with me. It came home with all of us. But this is a different war. This is the Vietnam War we're talking about. I'm an Iraq War veteran, but we all share the same trauma, and it traveled through generations. It carried over. War is hell, no matter where you serve or how you served it, and a lot of us come home with things that invisible scars. A lot of the time, it's not just things that you see that are, losing a limb or an injury of some kind that you can physically see. A lot of the injuries, most of the time, that really cause the worst damage are the ones that you don't see, the invisible ones, and those are the ones that we all carry. All veterans survive and come back with that. Anytime that I've had an opportunity to share a story that I've been through, or I've collaborated with another veteran or a soldier, we want to be able to share our experiences, but it always is a little bit painful and tricky and a delicate subject. But I think as filmmakers, as artists in general, we use this platform not only to share the stories, but also it's very therapeutic. It helps us get it out and helps us get through it in some way. So making The Plastic Man was, in a way, for me, a way to heal and get past trauma myself, by pushing through, what I witnessed and saw, which is hell for real.
And what people need to understand is that when you're watching this, it's not like Jonathan is just like, oh, I he went through this Vietnam and he having flashbacks. It's like the horrors of what he's fighting in his mind, and we are getting to see that up front and center. And that is scary because as a person who have suffered from depression and anxiety, and in the past have survived and attempted uh, to unalive myself, watching this is like, it just triggered like those moments where it was in my mind, and no one could see what was going on, but I knew it was there. Where you're watching Jonathan and he's presenting these things, he's trying to have a normal life, but he's battling, and we see the terror, the horror, the real life, and then it's narrated as well. So I mean, it's just really scary that these people see these wars, and they supposed to come home and everything is fine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, just live your life. But I mean, there were some things he was saying, like there was no parade, there was no nothing like that. We didn't come home as heroes. We just had our life, and then you saw it unfold.
That was like the most difficult thing for that generation,
Yeah.
when I came back from the war, we were celebrated, we were thanked, and we're still thanked. I served 18 years ago, and since I've been back, I get respect and I get taken care of by the VA. We feel at home and safe, and we're thanked often. So there is a sense of we feel honored to have served our country, and we feel okay being back home. But that generation was discarded completely. They were promised that they were going to go fight for their country, but when they returned home, they were completely spit on and called baby killers, and they didn't have the respect and support that they thought they had, which is really sad. You can imagine going over to fight for your country, then coming back, and the people that are supposed to appreciate you and love you are spitting on you and throwing you away. It was disgusting for them. That generation drank themselves to death or killed themselves because they didn't have that support. They had to fight their own people, and then they had to fight what was going on in their own mind, which was like,
Mm-hmm.
there was no PTSD back then, really. It was like battle shock. It was
Mm-hmm.
just trauma. They didn't know how to experience that. And that's terrifying for a doctor to be like, you've got some mental illness, but we don't know. Next, when they
Yeah.
don't realize that this is something that's bubbling up inside of them, and it leads to, suicide or drug use, or they have nowhere to escape. It's terrible.
Yeah.
That generation really didn't have any support. It's really sad.
Yeah. And what I mean about being close to home, because my dad was a Vietnam veteran.
Same.
So, yeah, he was in the Navy. And his experience is probably way different than those who are on the, battlefield, but he still was there. So I
Absolutely. No,
completely
absolutely. Oh,
understand.
anyone that served during that time, or even now, or anytime,
Yeah.
it's an honor, and it's noble, and it's a
Hmm.
beautiful. So thank you to him.
Gigi, so you play Linda. You was his girlfriend. I understood what she was feeling. So basically, there was a incident that happened between Speedy and Jonathan, and Speedy lost his life. And it was so tragic. And it was like Jonathan got the blame, almost the blame for it. Like it was like crazy. And it was like a choice, war or jail. But you played his girlfriend, and your emotion of just like how it felt like he was being selfish and he didn't understand, and you were just trying to like, hey, what am I supposed to do? What was going through your mind playing as Linda, experiencing looking at this person going to war? Like, where did your inspirations come from to make sure that you convey like the emotions, especially during that time that you brought in today?
I think that, Linda's biggest issue was the selfishness of the situation. And while this was something incredibly difficult to go through, and that was, I mean, imagine that being the choice, going to prison or going to war. That's horrifying. But I think that when you're in a couple or when you're in love with each other, you feel like you should be a part of those conversations, or that there should be that Jonathan should have still been holding space for Linda. And not only did he make the choice that does keep himself entirely away from her, where at least in prison, like there's visitation rights. And if you go to war, there's a chance that she may never see him ever again. So I think that the issue is that this wasn't even a conversation. He didn't care to even see how this was going to affect the people around him. And I understand, like looking at the scope of the entire film, how isolating that experience for Jonathan Teller must have been. But of course, Linda, with her own prerogative, she just wanted Jonathan to hold space for her. And it was like she was non existent. It was like after he was arrested, that was it. It was like her boyfriend or her husband had completely disappeared. And so I think that Linda felt very, very small. And also, without being brought in on Jonathan's process and making a decision, that's not what a partner does. It kept Linda just feeling very, very small and not important. And we don't go into the backstory of the relationship, but by the end of it, when the last line is always thinking of yourself, it goes to show that this has been a pattern their entire relationship, that Linda has continued to feel small. And by Jonathan being isolated and keeping Linda on the outside, he didn't even give her a chance to be there for him. So I think that my character, while feeling betrayed and sad for what her partner was going through, and also for the fear of also being alone, I think there's a lot of sadness in him not even allowing her to be there for him. Like, help me help you. And he held zero space for her. So I think she was just kind of at her wits' end by the end of that. And that's why she was like, okay, if you're gonna make this decision alone, that you're gonna suffer alone, and you're gonna go to war alone. And when you come back, I'm not gonna be here. And I think all of that was said by, leaving the telephone,
I mean, and you left because when he looked up, you were gone. I was like, oh, she was serious.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
she was, and the serious of it is that you don't reappear except for when he's going through all these troubling things, but you don't. And it was like you don't see that often in films. It's like the person comes back and I tried, and then they disappear again. But it was like no, because in reality sometimes people don't come back. And
That was the beginning of that was purposeful in a way that to show abandonment, which is the beginning
mm,
of his journey. Everyone is going to abandon him, everyone,
mm,
and when he comes back, even more, but he is abandoned by his own mind.
mm,
He's lost by the end, but
yeah,
there's something
exactly.
that happens that changes all that. So
So Gigi, you as one of the producers,
Mhm.
um, and Samuel, did you bring the script to her and say, "Hey, I have this idea," and she jumped on it? Like, what was it about it, Gigi, that you just knew, like, I need to get on this project, rather you were playing a character or not? But what
Mhm.
drawed you into his story?
Well, Sam had mentioned the Craigslist ad to me a hot second ago, and I knew that he intended to do a movie surrounding it. I think we were waiting for the right time, and I met a friend in acting class who has a role in the film, a very pivotal one. She's part of the twist, so we won't go super into it. And I thought she might be great, so I connected her and Sam. And Sam was like, hey, she's perfect for this. And she also became our financier. She goes, oh, I love this story so much. If there's no financing, like, well, now there is. Like, I'm jumping on board. This is something I want to be a part of. This is a story I want to tell. So I had initially made that, the intro, but my involvement got thicker later on. So I jumped in as like a PA and special effects and everything because I had two really good friends that were making a movie. But the short film was 40 minutes long, and it was so gorgeous. And I said to Sam, I said, what's so unfortunate is this is the most incredible short film that no one's ever going to see because it's too long to be a short and it's too short to be a feature. We should jump back in and see if we can get more financing and turn this into a feature. And that's when I really jumped on as a producer, all hands on deck, and came in creatively a little bit, like the story between with Linda and Jonathan Teller. That was a stitch, something that Sam and I came up with, a catapult to, okay, like now he's going on his journey, and he's losing everything. And so, my character is a vessel in that. But I just it was me and Matthew Hirsch. He did a ton of like the heavy lifting, and I really came in during sales and trying to get it out there and doing the PR and finding our distributor. Distro's really, really tough these days, and I wanted people to see this movie, and I didn't want it to get lost in the sauce. So that's when I kind of took on a larger role as producer and said, I'm going to help you guys take this all the way home because it deserves to be seen, and it's stunning. And I think that the story that Sam wanted to tell and the message behind it is very, very important, and something that we should be. I think we're in a time that people are making these movies that are sparking conversations that we want to avoid. And that's one thing I really like about the Plastic Men is this is forcing you to peek behind the curtain at a world that people really don't want to confront. And I think that I just thought that that was very important, and I was super inspired. And so I just wanted to help, which is why my involvement as a producer came or became so much more heavy. But earlier on, I was just kind of there for the ride. And then as it grew and turned into a feature is when I was like, okay, all hands on deck. Let's see where I can help.
I think it's the most amazing thing about this film is that, Sam, you visualize PTSD. And sometimes it's hard to explain. Like, people say, oh, I'm going through it. And it's like, okay, they're over there, shaking on the floor in the corners, or they hear fireworks and it, but how about we visually see it from their point of view? I love how visually you're seeing this man fall apart. And then as the audience, we're consumed by it. When he's laying there and seeing cracks, when he's smoking, when he's in that nasty house and things are happening, we feel it, we hear it, we can almost smell it. I mean, that's how it was so visually stunning. How did you want to make sure that the audience is not only watching it, but they feeling it?
There's all the trauma and that and the nightmares that really is PTSD. PTSD can be anything. It's not just veterans, right? You can go through PTSD with any type of trauma. But you're right, we never really see it. Right? We only see the aftermath or when someone's going through something. You can't really visualize anxiety or panic. What does that look like? So I think that was that's a great question, because that's one of well, that's our job as filmmakers. And I think that's one of the greatest elements of this films are the visual scape. And we had to peel back the layers to be like, what does that look like exactly? What do nightmares really look like? They manifest into what you saw, or things that you experienced, or things that you probably did and regret. So I try to use the film as a way to not only visualize the trauma, but for us to feel it. And a way to do that, we use certain color choices, certain lens choices to make us really get into the headspace of the character. We start the movie a little bit cooler, and as the movie goes along, it gets warmer and more and darker. So we without us understanding, we don't even really know what's going on. You'll start feeling like the walls are closing in on you, and you can't breathe, and you can't see too much. It just starts getting darker and darker. And I think that was a really interesting way for our audience to really start feeling uncomfortable by the end. We start to really feel what it's like to be trapped by your own mind, which is playing with light and color and shadows the best that we could.
Just well, like I said, like when it was a short film, it was I was not the main producer. I think I was like associate producer. I was doing little things just because I had made the intro between our financier and Sam. I just wanted everything to run smoothly, and I was just there to be supportive. And so that being said, we did this for very little money, and so our makeup department head Casey, she had very few helpers, so she was like, "Hey, will you jump in and help like dirty up people or do bullet holes, like come over and I'll teach you. Will you help me on set?" So I said, yeah. So I just did a little bit of just anything to be of any sort of assistance. And then when it was like, okay, we're going to take this the rest of the way and make it a feature, I was like, I'm hopping on as a producer. We're going to figure out how to make this work in terms of the story, and then we're going to get it a home. So that's as far as my involvement had gone. I wouldn't say I have much to do at all actually with the visuals. I'll say with Sam, he nothing Sam does is on accident with the type of shooter he is. As he said, like the way he moves his camera, color choices, lenses, all of it is intended to evoke a certain emotion. And I knew as a producer, I just wanted to have Sam's back, and I trusted what he was doing. And also, this was a story that was so personal to him that I just was there to support at the end of the day. And I think that what's on screen is really, really stunning.
Well, Samuel, I've seen your work before. Obviously, Stiletto will be coming out soon, and the Retaliators. There's something here that I wanted to say. Like I said earlier about the PTSD, how you visualize that AA meeting was so captivating, because as a person who has went to counseling and things like that, but I obviously I'm not a person that was in war, so that is a different mindset. But that whole scene just really showed how broken
Yeah.
um, people can get when they feel like they have no control over their life. And when you see what happens, and I kind of understood why that character did it, because that was the only time he had control. And that's so devastating because there's people today that feel that way. Like there's nothing I could do, no matter what I do, I just cannot get to where I need to go, but I have control of my actions. And some people only see a certain way out. And that visual, from the hugs to the talk to the chaos that happened, was just like, oh my goodness. Like I was just like in shambles.
That's one of the most powerful scenes I've ever directed
Mm,
in my career so far. And Gigi was there too. She could say, from her experience, no one was breathing when we shot
mm,
that scene. It
Oh,
went.
I would love to. I would love to intervene and just say on top of what Sam just said. The energy that we felt on set during that scene was like something that I haven't experienced before. And I've been on a lot of sets, as an actor and like on the opposite side, and to, as Sam said, it was like everyone was holding their breath, just watching it happen in real time, and the energy became so real. It filled the room, and the way that the actors were bouncing off of each other and the way that Sam was capturing all of it, it was one of the most insane things I think that I've ever witnessed. And I was so inspired. I just wanted to jump in. I was like, there's some really cool shit happening right now. I just want to jump in this scene. And also, very few times, even when performances are flawless, do you get the whole cast and crew clapping after a scene? And I believe, Sam, after one of the takes, everybody went clapping. Like
Yeah,
everyone was
everyone
so
erupted
ecstatic.
in applause. It was like almost everybody had a purge of
mm.
energy. Like whatever we were carrying, it all just went away. Like there were no problems, there were no phones, there were no issues. We were just present watching these incredible performers. These
Yeah.
actors were brilliant together, and we were watching magic. That happens maybe a handful, a few times in someone's career, and we're like, we saw something. It was like electricity in a bottle, and we captured it, and we were just holding on to it. And then when it evaporated, everyone was able to breathe, and it just erupted in applause. It was incredible energy. And I
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I really want to give it up to James Preston, our lead actor, and Aaron De La Villa, our supporting actor in those scenes, because they were so powerful and so invested. I've never seen anything like that before. We embraced and hugged and cried afterwards together. I was like, this is why we do what we do, not only for our audience to feel it, but for us to feel it too. It was a beautiful moment.
Mhm.
It felt. I think that was the moment when I felt like, okay, I need to look more into the background of you, Sam, and then that's when I was like, oh, he's a veteran himself, and I felt like that was something you was expressing. Like some people want to just scream out what are they feeling, and but I think that character helped Jonathan understand like this is what you are. This will you would become if you keep going, and that's
Mhm.
the scary part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He was able to be shown what's going to happen to him the deeper he goes,
yeah,
and a really brutal, violent reality check,
yeah.
and that scene shows that.
And lastly, I wanted to say that I was pretty good watching. No tears were shed. It was like really heartfelt, but there was a part that took me out. Like I was done. I was crying so hard.
Tell
I
us.
had to I had to pause it for a second. So I'm not going to go too far because I don't want to give any juicy bits away. But there was a point that these two characters were at the diner, and he was doing a narration. And the narrator is William. Is it Fichtner or
Fickner.
Fichtner? Fichtner.
William
Okay.
Fickner, yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I heard that voice, I was like, oh, I know that guy.
We all know that guy. He's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
legend.
Yeah, man. But he's so good, whatever he does. There was a part where they were sitting at the diner, and he was just expressing how this woman made him feel when he was at the breaking point. And there's a few lines here. I'm not going to say too many, but he said, there was a war raging inside me, and still your eyes offered no pity. And I loved you for that. And I'm just going to stop there. And there's more to it, but I don't want to give much away. But we all want someone to see us. And although there was not much verbal, you can definitely see that this person cared. And I just thought that was such a clever way of letting someone be able to speak how they feel, because no one ever listened to them. And this character was allowing him to be heard. And we all want that, regardless if we go through trauma or just everyday life, we want to be heard. And visually, throughout this entire film, you just see the things before you actually hear them. And I just want to say, Samuel, you are amazing. And you definitely see that in this. And Gigi, from the moment you were letting your feelings out in that jail cell to you appeared again, she appears again. And it was just when Jonathan was at his just breaking point. He was going there. And she had that plastic man. And that definitely, as it go, you'll understand the title. Just forgotten. We're all toys, played and discarded. I'm telling you. It was just fantastic. You guys both did such a great job.
And we appreciate you so much for having us. And we're really looking forward for people to see the film. It was a few years in the making. This is independent filmmaking to the max. It took all hands on decks and an incredible group of artists and collaborators coming together to tell this beautiful story that is based on a true story. So, and the story was told by a veteran who was never found. So we really hope that this movie is a beacon of light for wherever he is, that he can see it. And if he's not around and he's gone today, that light shines bright enough for everyone that feels lost, has a little bit of hope. You just got to know where to look for it.
Yes, this film should be like shared in classrooms like they do other films, because I've grown up in, if you have history class, political science, they always show specific classrooms. They should show this one, because it really shows what happens after something like that. No one really talks about it, and this film does. And you did such a great job. Thank you so much to you both. Thank you.
Thank
you so much. We appreciate it.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you like more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and everything else in between. Yeah, and check out The Plastic Man. It comes out on the 24th?
29th, right?
29th.
July 29th, everywhere on VOD. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're in New York on the 24th, they are having a screening of it in Manhattan.
Okay, that's what it. That's the one I saw. Yeah,
July 24th is a screening of it in Manhattan for sure, which is going to be amazing. Everyone's going to go there. If you live on the East Coast, go check it out. Which is where the story originated from, on that side of the country. But if you can't make it out that way, July 29th, everywhere, check it out. Great performances, beautiful story. We're so proud of it, and we're honored to share it. So thank you so much.
And I was honored to watch it. Thank you.
We love you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Until next time, everyone. Bye.
Take care.